Alright, Shalom, Quahala, Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Bashem, or Kwakwadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, the elders apostles of Great Millstone, and all the elders that are under Great Millstone. Within all the other camps out there. And peace and salutations to y'all brothers out there on the highways and byways that's noising this word abroad, and that's doing this work sincerely and diligently and faithfully in the name of Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai. And I just want to get into the book of the Apocrypha, on why it was removed, because contrary to belief, the Apocrypha is a part of the King James Version Bible, the 1611, which is the original Bible, the 1611 edition King James Bible, which these devils removed in 1885, AD, because, there was called the Bible Destruction Group, so they're not gonna remove this for nothing. They removed this for a reason. Why did they remove it? Because it contains a lot of, important prophecies. And not to mention, history, the Greeks, it contains the Grecian Empire, which they like to say that civilization started with the Greeks, But what they don't tell you is that, when these devils got into power, these so-called white people, the so-called white man, the beginning of his rulership was the Grecian Empire, But he's not going to tell you that, that was a wicked empire. Once they got into power, then that's when evils multiplied in the earth, That's when evils, blew up, That's when the evils blew up at a high rate, once these devils came into power. But that's something they're not going to tell you in their school systems. They're just going to tell you that civilization started with the Greeks. But they're not going to tell you the wickedness and the evil that multiplied once they got into power, That's not what they're going to tell you. But let me just get into this real quick and the information. And it says, the Apocrypha is a selection of books which were published in the original 1611 edition King James Bible. These Apocrypha books were postponed between the Old and New Testament. It is also contains maps and genealogy. The Apocrypha was a part of the KG version, KGV, which is the King James Version, for 274 years until being removed in 1885 AD. A portion of these books were called Deuteronomical books by some in titles such as the Catholic Church, Them are the main devils out there, the Roman Catholic Church, which is the false prophet in the book of, which says in the book of Revelations, Them are the main devils that removed, the Apocrypha out of the King James Version edition Bible, the 1611 edition, Not just them, but, you had something called the Bible Destruction Group, which was the same thing, was authorized by the Roman Catholic Church, Bunch of devils. And it says, many claim that the Apocrypha should never have been included in the first place, raising doubt about its validity, and believing. But, unfortunately, the Apocrypha is, validated. It is valid, because if this book was invalid, the Apocrypha was invalid, why are these devils, reading out of the Apocrypha? And not to mention, Elder Apostle Gabar brought that out, that these devils are reading the Apocrypha, even doing Trump's inauguration, these the brothers down there in Atlanta, the HUD brother down there in Atlanta brought it out, the elder down in Atlanta, he done brought it to the to our attention, which caught Elder Apostles Gabar's eye, which prompted him to do a video about it, likewise other brothers out there, because if this Apocrypha book wasn't validated, why are they reading out of it, Why did they read out of it, during John McCain's funeral, Because ultimately they know that these prophecies, a lot of these main prophecies that are written in this book is true, It talks about these devils going into slavery, It talks about America, aka Babylon the Great, being destroyed by thermonuclear missiles. It talks about how the 10 tribes, which consists of the Latin tribes, the Northern Kingdom and part of Levi, that came over here, to the Western Hemisphere, from the east to the over here to the Western Hemisphere, It explains about that, in the book of Second Ezra. And not to mention, you had that devil Christopher Columbus, using the Bible, That's how he was able to find out that there were people over here, through that devil Christopher Columbus, That devil Christopher Columbus, That's why he had Hebrew interpreters. Why did he bring Hebrew interpreters over here? Why? Because he knew that the tribes were over here, because he read out of the book of Second Ezra, where it explains how the northern tribe, fleeing from after the Assyrian captivity, coming over here, in them ships, and he read that in the account of Second Ezra, So to say that the book of the Apocrypha is not validated or is invalid, or it doesn't consist of the rest of the books, it's just completely nonsense. Because like I mentioned, you had Christopher Columbus even using that book to find out that our people was already over here, long before. So these devils, they know that the book is true, These devils, they know that the book of the Apocrypha is true. But let me finish on of reading this article. And believing it was not the God's inspired. For instance, a reference about magic seems inconsistent with the rest of the Bible. Tobit, chapter 6, verse 55 and 8. And others believe it is valid and that it should never have been removed. Yeah, because that's right. It should have never been removed, By you devils removing the book out of the book of the Apocrypha. It talks about that in the book of Revelations. That he that shall remove, or to take away or to subtract or take away from this book, of these prophecies, him. Well, I'm gonna get that later on once I get that. Once I finish reading this, but that it was that it was considered part of the Bible for nearly 2,000 years. Before it was recently removed a little more than 100 years ago. Some say it was removed because of not finding the books in the original Hebrew manuscript. Others claim it wasn't removed by the church, but by printers to cut costs in distributing Bibles in the United States. Both sides tend to cite the same verse that warns against adding or subtracting from the Bible, Revelations 22 and 8. The word of the Apocrypha means hidden, Yeah, the word of the Apocrypha means hidden, sent away. Why? Because ultimately Esau doesn't want the world to know the truth. That's why it's hidden, That's why he hid the book, That's why he put it as the Apocrypha. Because many people out there don't know about especially these people, these jakes in these churches, especially these Christians that are in these churches. You ask them about the book of the Apocrypha, they'll start scratching their heads, like what, The word Apocrypha means hidden firmaments of Dead Sea Scrolls dating back before the 70 AD. Contained parts of the Apocrypha book in Hebrew, including Sirach and Tobit. Keep this in mind when reading the following Apocrypha book. Martin Luther said, Apocrypha, that is, books are not regarded as equal to the Holy Scriptures, and yet are profitable and good to read, Well, that's it on this article, Ultimately, the reason why they removed the book out of the 1611 edition Bible is because it contains a lot of truth in it, Especially the history with the Greeks, Because ultimately, what the Greeks did was Hellenized, Israel, all of Israel, That's why you have it in when Paul was sent on to the Gentiles, when they talk about the Gentiles, it's talking about the Israelite foreigners that were Hellenized through the Greeks, Because many of them were still calling themselves Greeks back then. So those Gentiles were actually Hebrew Israelites, that took on the philosophies of the Grecian Empire, That's why they took it out, because Esau has the world thinking that, Paul went on to everybody, all nations, that all nations was grafted in as Gentiles, by Paul. So that's why he removed it out of the Bible, because he really cannot preach, God is for everybody without the Apocrypha in it, because ultimately the book, ultimately this book cuts, the majority of the lies that are being spread throughout the earth right now, This book of prophecies, the book of the Apocrypha book cuts, the great majority of the lies that's being taught out there, But enough said. I'm gonna get into the book of Revelations 22 and 18 that they stated. So this is the book of Revelation, chapter 22, verse 18. And it says, For I testify unto you, every man that heareth the words of these prophecies of this book, if any man should add unto these things, the Most High shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. And that's what Esau have done. He done added and subtracted from the scriptures. He done added things, in the scriptures, where it says, in the book of Deuteronomy, where it says, thou shalt not abhor Edomite, which that word should be Assyrian, the elder apostle Tahar went into that, that the original translation should be Assyrian, but Esau done slapped that in there, to make it seem, to make it apply to him, But ultimately, all the other scriptures condemn him, saying that Esau has Esau had found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears, You know, how would that make sense? You know, where it says in Deuteronomy chapter, where it says in Deuteronomy that thou shalt not abhor Edomite. You know, just doesn't make sense. You know, so Esau done added, you know, to the scriptures, which the Most High is going to add the plagues that are written in this book. He's going to add onto them the plagues that are written in this book. And here's the main point right here. And this is the biggest things that Esau had done. This is the big crime that Esau done did, you know. Verse 19, and it says, and if any man shall take away from the words of the book of these prophecies, keyword prophecies, it says prophecies, because the Apocrypha contains a lot of the prophecies that are going to take place in these times right here, you know. So there's a lot of prophecies that still hasn't came to pass, you know, that is written in the Apocrypha, you know, which ultimately are the thermonuclear missiles and the famine and the sedition among men, you know. So those are the prophecies that still need to come to pass, you know. So it says prophecy right here, you know. The Apocrypha contains a lot of prophecies that are written in these books, that's written. And what did Esau do? He ended up removing it from the original, you know, from the original 1611 edition Bible. And it says, let me read it again. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy, the Most High God shall take away his part out of the book of life and out of the holy city and from the things which are written in this book, you know. So Esau, because he done did that crime, the Most High is gonna take him away, you know. It's gonna remove him from the book of life, you know, which is the kingdom of heaven, you know, the holy city, which is Jerusalem, you know, which is the kingdom of heaven, you know, because Esau is not going to have no part or not going to take any part in the kingdom. Ultimately, after he serves his sentence, you know, ultimately he's just going to be totally done away with, you know, according to the book of Obadiah, you know. He's just going to completely be done away with, completely, you know, like it says in the book of Obadiah that there should not remain any of the house of Israel, of the house of Esau, you know, that they should not be no remaining of the house of Esau. So Esau's just going to be totally done away with, you know, when he gets in the kingdom, after he serves his 1,000 years of slavery in the kingdom. So because this devil done fucked with this holy Bible and with the original King James Version Bible, you know, the Most High is going to take away his part in the kingdom, you know. But with that, you know, I hope this lesson was edifying. And I want to give all praises to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem, Raquah Kodesh, double honors to the head apostles of Great Millstone, and all the other elders around, all the other elders, you know, of the different camps in the state around the world. And salutations to y'all brothers out there on the highways and byways that's noising this road abroad, all around the country and all around the world, VI through the internet, you know. And with that, I want to say shalom.